Your fingers touch the cold silk and your stomach turns. The dress hangs on the wooden peg like something waiting to devour you. Through the narrow window, dawn light catches the blade your father sharpens. Steel scraping stone. Over and over. A sound that will haunt you. Your mother sits in the corner, rosary beads clicking between her fingers, whispering prayers that sound more like mourning than blessing. The smoke from last night's fire still clings to the rafters. You are 12 years old. Today men will seal a contract written in your flesh. This is not a story about romance. This is not about choice. This is about what marriage actually meant for most of human history. Before anyone asked what women wanted, before anyone cared if they survived. Before we go deeper into this world, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? It's strange and wonderful to think we're connected across centuries and continents, exploring together what was hidden in plain sight for so long. The document on the table is not a love letter, it is an inventory. Sir Geoffrey Montford, 41, widowed, owner of 3 manors, 200 serfs, debts to the crown. Lady Matilda Ashford, 11, unblemished fertile bloodline traced to the Plantagenets. Dowry, 50 marks silver, 2 chests of linens, rights to a mill in Kent. The negotiations took 6 days, not because anyone cared what you thought, but because your father wanted every advantage he could extract from selling you. You were, after all, his most valuable possession, young enough to be molded, old enough to bear children, noble enough to elevate his standing. The fact that you still played with cloth dolls was inconvenient, but not disqualifying. Marriage in medieval England was not about joining hearts. It was about joining estates. The historical record is brutally clear. Research from Cambridge shows that among noble families between 1200 and 1500, girls were typically married between 12 and 14. For peasant families, the age crept slightly higher, 16 to 18, not from mercy, but because poor families needed daughters' labor longer and couldn't afford elaborate dowries. But across every social class, the fundamental truth remained unchanged. Marriage was something done to women, not chosen by them. Canon law set the minimum age at 12 for girls, 14 for boys, based on assumed fertility, not capability or consent as we understand it today. The church called it the age of reason. It was in reality the age of commodification. Your mother's hands shake as she fastens the wooden buttons carved with the family crest. A swan pierced through the heart. Fitting. She married at 13, bore 9 children, lost 4 before their 5th year. She has never once spoken of love. Only duty. Only survival. A wife, she whispers, her breath warm against your neck, must become water. Take the shape of whatever vessel holds her. Resistance brings pain. Only pain. She knows. The bruises she hides beneath long sleeves tell their own story. The procession through the village is theater, public witnessing to make the transaction irreversible. Unlike modern weddings, medieval marriage was not primarily a religious event. The church's role was minimal, often just a priest offering blessing at the church door before the real business began. The ceremony existed for witness, for community acknowledgement that a legal transfer had occurred. In a world where most people couldn't read or write, public ceremony served as collective memory. These villagers would remember, would testify if anyone questioned the legitimacy of your union or your future children's inheritance rights. Every face watching as you pass will serve as a living contract. You walk between rows of people who have known you since birth. None of them intervenes. None of them questions. The system they live within is so absolute, so normalized, that your terror seems as natural as rain. Father Benedict stands at the church door, stone-faced, vestments heavy with embroidered gold thread. He has presided over hundreds of these ceremonies, watched countless girls your age led to altars. His Latin washes over you like cold water. Wilt thou take this man to be thy wedded husband, to have and to hold, for better, for worse, till death do you part? You are not asked if you consent. Consent was not a concept applied to children, and legally at 12 you were a child, regardless of what your body could be forced to do. Your father consents on your behalf. He has consented to every major decision in your life. Your voice when you whisper "I will" is barely audible above the wind. You wonder if God hears prayers this quiet. Sir Geoffrey steps forward to claim his purchase. He is not a monster in appearance. That's what makes it worse. He looks ordinary, a man in his middle years, graying at the temples, dressed in fine wool. But you have heard whispers about his first wife. How she died at 15 in childbed. How she was seen with bruises. How she grew silent and thin in the months before the birth that killed her. He examines you now the way a merchant examines livestock, assessing health, breeding potential, likely longevity. The ring he slides onto your finger is iron, not gold. Heavy, deliberately chosen. Iron was cheaper, yes, but it was also symbolic, hard, unyielding, eternal, like the bonds he was forging. Bonds meant never to be broken. The feast after is grotesque in its celebration of your surrender. The manor hall fills with torch smoke and the smell of roasted meat. Long tables groan under platters of white bread, venison, ale. The guests, all adults, all complicit, raise cups to your fertility, to the continuation of bloodlines to prosperity. You sit beside your husband. Your feet don't touch the floor from the high chair. He speaks to you occasionally. Simple questions. Your education, your health. Have your monthly courses begun? You answer in syllables. Terror has stolen your voice. The food before you grows cold. Your stomach has become a fist. A minstrel sings as darkness deepens. Songs of courtly love. Knights and ladies. Passion and devotion. The irony cuts. These romanticized tales had nothing to do with real medieval marriage. They were fantasies, escapist literature for a society that had made genuine love nearly impossible within matrimonial bonds. The troubadours of southern France who invented courtly love sang explicitly of extramarital affairs, love between knights and married noblewomen. Love that was passionate precisely because it was forbidden and unconsummated. The church condemned these ideas, but they persisted because they offered emotional outlet in a world where marriage was purely transactional. The cult of courtly love revealed a dark truth. Marriage was so devoid of connection that people had to invent an entirely separate concept to describe what we now call romantic love. As evening progresses, the guests grow drunker, louder. Conversation turns crude. Jokes about wedding nights, about breaking in young brides, about the necessity of immediate consummation. You understand only fragments, but the leering faces make meaning clear. Your mother appears at your side, face pale but determined. "Come," she says quietly. "It is time." The bedding ceremony was perhaps the most brutal aspect of medieval marriage, a public ritual that transformed violation into celebration. Historical records confirm that the entire wedding party would escort bride and groom to their chamber, offering advice, making jokes, ensuring the marriage was immediately consummated. The bride's virginity was not just assumed, but publicly verified. Her bloody sheets would be displayed as proof of purity and successful possession. This was not seen as cruel. It was considered legally necessary. A marriage that wasn't consummated wasn't a marriage at all. It could be annulled, contracts voided, political alliances dissolved. The witnesses ensured the transaction was completed as agreed. You are led up narrow stone stairs to a chamber prepared for this moment. The room is small, cold, lit by a single candle casting shadows on rough walls. The bed dominates, a wooden frame with straw mattress covered in linen sheets. It looks like a place of execution. The women undress you with practiced efficiency, hands impersonal. Your wedding dress is carefully folded, kept as heirloom. Your shift, thin, transparent, offers no protection from cold air or watching eyes. Sir Geoffrey enters with the men already half undressed. Drunk, which might be mercy. Drunk men sometimes fall asleep. But tonight he seems focused, determined to claim what he purchased. The priest blesses the marriage bed, sprinkling holy water, reciting prayers for fertility. The crowd presses closer. Men make crude gestures. Women nod approvingly as if your terror is perfectly normal. This public violation of privacy served a purpose in their minds. It guaranteed the marriage was legally binding. Finally, mercifully, the crowd withdraws, but not before married women offer final advice. Submit completely. Make no sound. Think of your duty. Your mother kisses your forehead, her tears falling on your face. The door closes like a coffin lid. You are alone with this stranger who now owns you more completely than he owns his horses or land. You are his property, his chattel, his to use. The law provides no protection. The church teaches that a woman's body belongs to her husband, that she has no right to refuse, that her purpose is bearing children regardless of cost to health or happiness. The medieval concept of marriage was built on absolute male authority. While the husband promised to love and cherish, the wife promised to love, cherish, and obey. That word, obey, was not ceremonial. It was legal requirement backed by civil and religious law. What happens in that chamber is not lovemaking but conquest. Medieval marriage manuals written by men for men offered advice on breaking in young wives, overcoming natural resistance, asserting dominance from the beginning. The concept of marital rape did not exist. Rape was defined as crime against property, and a husband could not steal what already belonged to him. Mourning brings no relief, only continuation of your new reality. You wake to blood on sheets, evidence to be displayed. Your body aches in ways you didn't know possible. You move carefully, like someone very old. Every step a reminder of what you've lost. Sir Geoffrey is already dressed, preparing to leave for his estates. He speaks briefly, formally, outlining your duties. Manage his household, oversee servants, receive guests, bear his children. You will not leave the manor without permission, will not speak to men without supervision, will not refuse his advances regardless of how tired, sick, or frightened. The legal reality was brutal in its simplicity. Under the doctrine of coverture, married women had no independent legal existence. They could not own property, make contracts, bring lawsuits, or even write wills without husband's consent. A married woman was covered by her husband's legal identity. She ceased to exist as an individual and became merely an extension of his will. Your new home is fortress, literally and metaphorically. The manor house sits on a hill overlooking the village, stone walls thick, impenetrable. There are no locks on the insides of doors. Locks kept people out, not in. But you are imprisoned nonetheless. Trapped by law, custom, and certain knowledge, there is nowhere to run. The household staff regards you with pity and weariness. They have seen wives come and go, witnessed the cycle of hope and despair. The older servants remember Sir Geoffrey's first wife, how she arrived young and smiling, how she gradually faded into silence and shadow, how she died screaming in childbirth while her husband drank in the hall below. Your days develop rhythm of submission and endurance. Wake before dawn, pray, oversee household tasks, needlework, spinning, evening in your husband's bed, no privacy, no solitude, no moment when you belong to yourself. Even prayers are monitored. The chaplain reports your spiritual state to your husband, who has right to correct deviations from proper wifely devotion. Pregnancy comes quickly. It was expected, desired. Medieval medicine understood little about conception beyond observing that frequently bedded young women soon showed signs. There was no concept of family planning, no understanding of female cycles, no recognition that constant pregnancy might be dangerous. You are 13 when your first child is born. The experience nearly kills you. Medieval childbirth was a terrifying ordeal. Recent historical research from Cambridge reveals that maternal mortality among aristocratic English women between 1236 and 1503 was approximately 1 to 1.5% per birth. That sounds small until you calculate cumulative risk. A woman bearing 6 children faced roughly 6 to 9% lifetime chance of dying in childbirth. In urban areas like 1420s Florence, giving birth accounted for 1 in 5 deaths among married women. Archaeological evidence confirms thousands of young women buried with infants who never drew breath. The midwife who attends you is elderly Agnes, hands stained with blood of countless births. Her knowledge is limited to folk remedies and superstition. She places jasper on your belly to ease pain, hangs eagle claws around your neck to speed delivery, mutters prayers to Saint Margaret, patron saint of childbirth. Labor begins at dawn, continues through night. You scream until your voice is gone, then continue screaming silently. Wave after wave of agony threatening to tear you apart. Agnes forces bitter herbs that make you vomit, then more herbs to stop vomiting. Your husband paces in the hall below, concerned not for your suffering but for fate of his potential heir. The baby, when it finally comes, is a girl. Disappointment in the room is palpable. Sir Geoffrey's reaction is cold fury. He doesn't hold the child, doesn't ask about her health, doesn't inquire about your condition. He simply leaves, already planning the next pregnancy that will, he hopes, produce a male heir. Recovery is long and agonizing. Your body, already small and underdeveloped, has been damaged. You develop fever lasting weeks, leaving you weak and delirious. Agnes treats you with more herbs and charms, but medieval medicine has no understanding of infection. Your husband shows no patience. Within 2 months of birth, he is demanding his conjugal rights again. You try to explain that your body needs healing, but such concerns are irrelevant. A wife's body belonged to her husband. He had right to use it regardless of health or comfort. The cycle begins again. Another pregnancy, another difficult birth, another daughter, then another. By 18, you have given birth 4 times. 2 children died in infancy. Your body is worn out, prematurely aged. You look in the polished metal mirror and see your mother's face. Same hollow eyes, same resigned expression, same defeated posture. Medieval women lived entire adult lives in states of pregnancy, childbirth, or recovery. The average medieval woman who survived to adulthood would bear 6 to 8 children, roughly half dying before age 5. The emotional toll of losing child after child was enormous. But there was no time to grieve before the next pregnancy began. The church taught this suffering was God's will, punishment for Eve's sin. Women were told pain in childbirth was their natural lot, to be accepted with patience and humility. The idea that women might control their own fertility, space pregnancies, or refuse unwanted advances was not just forbidden, but literally unthinkable. Your relationship with your husband, if it can be called that, is built entirely on power and submission. He speaks only to give orders or express displeasure. You speak only when directly addressed, in the most deferential terms possible. There is no conversation, no shared interests, no emotional connection. You are his property, useful for producing heirs and managing his household, but not a person whose thoughts or feelings matter. The isolation is perhaps worst. You are surrounded by people but have no real friends, no confidant. Other women in the household are servants, and social gap makes genuine friendship impossible. Local noblewomen are potential rivals, their friendships contingent on husbands' alliances. You are alone in a way both complete and inescapable. Even your children provide only constrained comfort. You are expected to be loving but not indulgent, nurturing but not protective. The children belong to their father. He will make all decisions about their upbringing. Your role is caring for them in infancy and early childhood. But once they reach age 7, the supposed age of reason, they will be sent to other households to be educated and trained. The legal system provides no protection for abused wives. Medieval law recognized a husband's right to physically correct his wife as long as punishment wasn't excessive. The definition of excessive was left largely to male interpretation, and the threshold was high. A husband could beat his wife with a stick no thicker than his thumb, could lock her away, restrict her food, humiliate her publicly, all in the name of maintaining household order. Your husband's violence is not constant but always present as threat. He strikes you when you displease him, when dinner is late, when you fail to conceive quickly enough, when you show too much affection for your children. The servants pretend not to notice the bruises, the way you flinch when he raises his hand, the careful way you move around him. The church offers only more oppression. You confess sins regularly, but the priest is more interested in your failures as wife than your suffering as person. Have you been obedient, submitted willingly, kept thoughts pure? Your pain is not sin to be forgiven, but trial to be endured. Medieval Christianity taught that women were inherently weak, sinful, dangerous, daughters of Eve, cursed with responsibility for humanity's fall. The only path to salvation was through submission to male authority and patient endurance of suffering. Years pass in blur of pregnancy, childbirth, loss. You bear 8 children total. 4 survive to adulthood. Each birth harder than the last. Each recovery longer, more difficult. Your body becomes gaunt, worn. You lose teeth, develop chronic pain, suffer what we would recognize as severe depression.